Rapunzel. Once upon a time there lived a husband and wife who very much longed to have children. These good people had a little window at the back of their house, which looked into the most lovely garden, full of all manner of beautiful flowers and vegetables. But the garden was surrounded by a high wall, and no one dared to enter it, for it belonged to a witch of great power, who was feared by the whole world. One day the woman stood at the window overlooking the garden and saw there the finest green leafy vegetables. These leaves looked so fresh, luscious, and green that she longed to eat them. As if cast in a spell, the desire grew day by day, and just because she knew she couldn't possibly get any, she pined away and became quite pale and sickly. Then her husband grew alarmed and said, "What ails you, dear wife?"
"Oh," she answered, "if I don't get some leaves to eat from the garden, I know I shall die."
The man, who loved her dearly, thought to himself, "Rather than let my wife die, I shall fetch her some leaves, no matter what the cost." So, at dusk, he climbed over the wall into the witch's garden, and, hastily gathering a handful of leaves, he returned with them to his wife. She made them into a salad, which tasted so good that her longing for the forbidden food was greater than ever. If she were to know any peace of mind, there was nothing for her husband to do but climb over the garden wall and again fetch her this delectable food. So, at dusk, over the wall he went, but when he reached the other side, he drew back in terror, for there, standing before him, was the old witch. With a wrathful stare, she said,
"How dare you climb into my garden and steal my vegetables like a common thief? You shall suffer for your foolishness."
"Oh, pardon my stealing. Necessity alone drove me to the deed. My wife saw your green, leafy vegetables from her window and conceived such a desire for them that she would certainly have died if her wish had not been gratified."
At that, the witch's anger was a little lessened, and she said,
"If it's as you say, you may take as many leaves away with you as you like, but on one condition only: that you give me the child your wife will shortly bring into the world. All shall go well with it, and I will look after it like a mother."
The man, in his terror, agreed to everything she asked, and as soon as the child was born, the witch appeared, and having given it the name of Rapunzel, she carried it off with her, leaving the parents devastated and forlorn. As she grew, Rapunzel became the most beautiful child under the sun. When she was 12 years old, the witch, fearing Rapunzel would run away, shut her up in a tower in the middle of a great forest. The tower had neither stairs nor doors, only high up at the very top a small window. When the old witch wanted to get in, she stood underneath and called out,
"Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your golden hair."
For Rapunzel had wonderful long hair, and it was as fine as spun gold. Whenever she heard the witch's voice, she unloosed her braids of hair and let it fall down out of the window about 20 yards below, and the old witch climbed up by it. After they had lived like this for a few years, it happened one day that a prince was riding through the forest and passed by the tower. As he drew near it, he heard someone singing so sweetly that he stood spellbound and listened. It was Rapunzel, in her loneliness, trying to while away the time by letting her sweet voice ring out into the forest. The prince longed to see the owner of the voice, but he sought in vain for a door in the tower. He rode home, but he was so haunted by the song he had heard that he returned every day to the forest and listened. One day, when he was standing behind a tree, he saw the old witch approach and heard her call out,
"Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your golden hair."
Then Rapunzel let down her braids, and the witch climbed up by them. "So that's the staircase, is it?" said the prince. "Then I too will climb it and try my luck." So, on the following day, at dusk, he went to the foot of the tower and cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your golden hair." And as soon as she had let it down, the prince climbed up. At first Rapunzel was terribly frightened when a man came in, for she had never seen one before. But the prince spoke to her so kindly, and told her at once that his heart had been so touched by her singing that he felt he should know no peace of mind till he had seen her. Very soon Rapunzel forgot her fear, and when he asked her to marry him, she consented at once. "For he is young and handsome, and I'll certainly be happier with him than with the old witch." So she put her hand in his and said, "Yes, I will gladly go with you. Only how am I to get down out of the tower? Every time you come to see me, you must bring a reel of silk with you, and I will make a ladder of them, and when it is finished, I will climb down by it, and you will take me away on your horse." They arranged that till the ladder was ready, he was to come to her every evening, because the old woman was with her during the day. The old witch, of course, knew nothing of what was going on, till one day Rapunzel, momentarily forgetting her situation, turned to the witch and said, "How is it, good mother, that you are so much harder to pull up than the young prince? He is always with me in a moment."
"Oh, you wicked child!"
cried the witch.
"What is this I hear? I thought I had hidden you safely from the whole world, and in spite of it you have managed to deceive me."
In her wrath she seized Rapunzel's beautiful hair, and then, grasping a pair of scissors, snipped it off. Rapunzel tearfully looked down at the beautiful braids that lay on the ground. The witch ignored the tears, and worse than that, was so hard-hearted that she took Rapunzel to a lonely desert place and left her there to live in loneliness and misery. Then, on the evening of the day in which she had driven poor Rapunzel away, the witch fastened the braids of hair onto a hook in the window, and when the prince came and called out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your golden hair," the witch let them down. The prince climbed up as usual, But instead of his beloved Rapunzel, he found the old witch, who fixed her evil, glittering eyes on him and cried mockingly,
You thought to find your lady love, but the pretty bird has flown and its song is silent. The cat caught it and will scratch out your eyes too. Rapunzel is lost to you forever, and you will see her never more.
The prince was beside himself with grief, and in his despair he jumped right down from the tower, and though he escaped with his life, the thorns among which he fell pierced his eyes and blinded him, just as the witch had predicted. He rose unsteadily to his feet and began to wander, blind and miserable, through the forest, eating nothing but roots and berries, while he wept and lamented the loss of his lovely bride. And so it was he wandered about for some years, as wretched and unhappy as he could be, all the while listening, hoping to hear the beautiful voice of his lovely Rapunzel. And Rapunzel, lonely and isolated, continued to sing, hoping it would somehow bring the prince to her side as it had done once before. His wandering continued until at last he came to the desert place to which Rapunzel had been banished. All of a sudden he heard a voice which was wonderfully familiar to him. He walked eagerly in the direction of the sound, and when he was quite close, Rapunzel recognized him, and they fell into each other's arms and wept. It was at that moment that 2 of her tears touched his eyes, making them clear, and in a miracle the prince could see again as well as he ever had. After much rejoicing and affection, he lovingly led her to his kingdom, where they lived happily ever after.